It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. The Dep Lewis Show. It's the Dep Lewis Show. Welcome to the Dep Lewis Show, episode 159. This is your host, Dep Lewis, and today is Sunday, December 14th, 2025. A great day for a podcast about video games and more. So I hope you're doing great out there in the world, wherever and whenever you're listening to this. Thank you so much for being here. The first order of business is to ask you to follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. If you would like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. Also, Venmo at Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you would like to support the show. Today's show will have three sections as always. The first section, I'll talk about what video games I've been playing since I've last talked to you on this microphone. The mid section, which is the middle of the show, is where I tell you, but it's not mid in quality, but that's where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. So the most important section of the show each week, I would say. And the third and final section, the miscellaneous talk section, is where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. So I usually like to get into the worldwide world of sports and tell you what's going on with all my favorite teams. And that will be the case today because this is back to being an NFL Sunday for the Carolina Panthers coming off a bye week. And they normally play at 1 o'clock on a Sunday, which is about an hour away in real time. But today they're in the afternoon slot. So I have a little more leeway on releasing the podcast this morning and not having to rush before the mighty 7-6 Carolina Panthers take on division opponent, the New Orleans Saints in New Orleans. So I'm pretty excited for that. It's going to be really, really great. And hopefully the Panthers can come out and get a win. And I'll be talking more about that in the final section of the show. But the main thing I'm here for, as always, is the video game talk. So let's get into some video game discussion and talk and mumbo jumbo. And what have I been playing since I've last talked to you? So I've had kind of a random week video gaming over here, but the main thing I've been playing is Ghost of Yotei. So making some more progress here, mainly open world progress. There is a crazy amount of things to do and discover and more pieces of the map to buy and place and find different altars and different wolf dens and different bamboo strikes and all sorts of fun open world stuff to go do that I keep finding. And it's surprising that I keep finding so much to do. And I've defeated, 3 of the Yotei 6 now at this point? I just defeated the Oni, was the most recent one, I believe. I think that's the case. I think I've defeated 3 of them. There's the 2 brothers I have left, and then the head guy. So I'm thinking the 2 brothers maybe are going to be more of a combo platter. So I was kind of trying to think how far I am in this game, and I think I'm at least halfway through. And I think I've been doing a good majority of the open world stuff too. So I think I'm going at a good rate. I think I'm 30 or 40 hours in on this game and just having so much fun with it. It's one of the things I was reminding myself is the humor in this game is pretty much always surprising, but it's been good. Atsu even is leading the way with some of the humor, which I think is a nice contrast because Atsu is like one of the coolest characters that I've seen in a video game in a really long time. Atsu, I wrote down Atsu's number 1. So she's been a really cool character just from her style, her personality, and then the entire game around her as well. And then also along with her being this, really, really hardcore, skilled, amazing fighter, she's, has a little bit of humor in there, which is nice. It's a nice contrast in this very dark world and dark tale that Atsu is, I guess, weaving and being woven around on this tale or whatever. But Ghost of Yotei has been really good. Watanabe mode is extremely fun and relaxing to play with that on and have the lo-fi music going. I think that's one of the cooler additions to a video game in a while. I think it seems pretty simple, but it just meshes with this world so well and has made me enjoy this game a whole lot. So I've been playing some more Ghost of Yotei. Nothing too drastic to report there, but I've pretty much, I've been trying to gauge, like I was saying, how far I am in this game. I've pretty much filled up the skill tree, maybe 80% of the way. I haven't done it on some of the new weapons yet, but I have been enjoying the new weapons. I've been using the Odachi, I think that's what it's called, but I've been also forgetting that I have the Odachi until every once in a while I'll remember I have it, and then you use it to fight a giant enemy, and it's helpful. So it's something I need to remember more of. I think the other weapon that you get is the dual katanas, and I'm not sure what else you get, but it seems like there's more to do, which is cool, but I think I've been making some good progress over on the Ghost of the Yotei. And Atsu continues to be an extremely cool character, so I've been having a lot of fun with this game. And so what else have I been playing this week? So Ghost of Yotei was kind of the main thing I was playing, and I kind of did a lot of random gaming this week. I actually haven't done a ton of gaming or made any significant progress, just kind of jumping around, but I've been playing some Sonic Racing CrossWorlds again. Still really enjoying this game. I'm still trying to decide what my favorite racing game of the year is and what my favorite game of the year is in general, but I've been completing some Grand Prix races in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. I think I just completed the second tier this morning, so I'm on the third tier I can move to, which is the even higher speed. I haven't completed any Grand Prix in that one, but I believe there's either one more Grand Prix to go after that, or it's a mirror Grand Prix, so I'm not sure, but I've been having a lot of fun. That's the main thing I've been doing in there is the Grand Prix races, and I was actually playing some of that this morning. I did play some Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in the past week, and I think I've completed the Grand Prix there up until the mirror section now, so I think that's a new accomplishment as well, but that was just a little bit earlier in the week. So I've still been doing a lot of racing over here. Not as much Kirby Air Riders in the past week, not as much Mario Kart World. Been kind of more into the Sonic Racing. I guess I've been playing on my PlayStation a good bit, playing Yotei, so it's nice to jump into Sonic Racing on PlayStation because that's where I own it. But I'll talk some more about Sonic Racing in the middle of the show. But what else have I been playing? I've been playing Mario 64, which is that's kind of a new entry into the rotation of things I've been flirting with or playing. I actually have this on the 64 originally, and I have it on the 3D Mario All-Stars collection. So I've been making a little bit of progress on both actually, but I've just been making more progress now on the 3D All-Stars collection. I think I'm only 8 stars in, so that gets you to the second section. But this game still feels really great, and I've never completed this game. I think I've gotten a pretty good majority of the way through, but it's something I've never completed, so that's something I've been thinking of. It'd be fun to see if I can complete Mario 64. And in the second section, I've already started encountering some pretty difficult areas, so I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk, but most of the time you don't have to complete everything 100% to move on, and that was kind of the case with the first area. There was probably maybe 16 stars you can get, and you only have to get 8 of them to move on, so I'm guessing the rest of the game's going to be like that, and it's just fun. This game still controls well on the N64 original as well. It does look a little bit nicer on the 3D All-Stars collection, and then being able to use the actual Pro controller from the Switch or the Switch 2 is just another nice benefit of playing some of these older games. Being able to use like a really nice modern controller is really cool. So I've been playing some more. I've been playing some Mario 64. And then the other game, this is kind of something I picked up earlier in the year. This is a new release, but I haven't really played too much of it yet. But I've been, starting off a file in Hollow Knight Silksong. So I just wrote that I'm trying this out some. Some of my notes so far is I really like the color in the game early on. You go to like a jungle area, and it seems a little more vibrant than the initial stages of Hollow Knight, the original Hollow Knight, which I've started a million times now. I've never completed, but I've tried to play that game at least maybe 6 times, I would say. Was probably not an over-exaggeration. And I've had a lot of fun with it. So I just decided, hey, I picked this game up a while ago. I'm going to try it out before the end of the year and see what I think of it. And I've been having fun with it so far. So Hornet is a really cool character. The very intro of the story is just very slight, but it gets you right into the action, and I think is very nice. And then Hornet looks super cool. And I've been enjoying the side characters in this game. There's people around the map that are singing. That's pretty fun. You can hear them from a distance and try to go follow them. I think early on it helps you. It's like a good indicator of like getting your bearings on the map, because when you load into this game, you have no map. You have to buy the map, and then it kind of chart the area out for you. And then you have to get a compass so you can actually see where you are on the map. So it's not just as simple as pulling up the map and knowing where you are. So having the character singing is a nice little indicator early on, especially when these people that I met so far have been friendly. And the one guy who is traveling up he's trying to travel up I'm sorry, I forget what it's called. It's like they need to basically travel up the mountain, I guess is what they're trying to do. And this little guy is like, he's just sitting there singing and waiting for the gate to open. And you go through all the trouble of opening the gate for him, and he goes, "Oh, thank you to the gate." And he goes, "I knew the gate would open for me." He didn't even thank Hornet. So I think he's one of the strongest characters so far. And he was one of the guys. He was in the Pew Tens, the Pew Pew Bang Game of the Year show. They called it the Pew Tens, and he was the winner of their Best Little Guy category. So he's definitely living up to the hype. of that so far. And there's also the flea crew, which I think is pretty funny. You bump into the crew of fleas down there. They're friendly. They're chilling next to a bench, and you can buy some things from them. So I think they're a pretty interesting little crew to meet. But this game is mirroring a lot of Hollow Knight 1. It's exactly, I don't want to say exactly, but it really is kind of the same setup. You land into a world, you quickly get into the little hub town or initial area, and then you kind of just move on and kind of chart your way around. And you meet the initial group of people in the town, you meet the people down below that are going to sell you a map and things like that. So the characters, it's doing a lot of the same things so far that Hollow Knight is. So I think there really is a strong case here for these games being interchangeable, of which one you would want to play or which one you would want to try. So that's kind of what I'm getting into. And maybe I would get back to playing Hollow Knight at some point, because there's definitely something I like in this franchise. Like I'm saying, I think I've tried this game maybe 5 or 6 times, of starting a different file, maybe on PlayStation, starting it on the Switch, started it on my OLED, and now I have Switch 2. I started it on the Switch 2, just all sorts of random restarts of Hollow Knight. So I definitely like the combat. And I like that you can put this game on and get right into the action. That is something I like about it. As I've been getting a little bit more into RPGs, but I also do like games where you just kind of put them on and start playing and get your Hollow Knight Silksong on. So I've been enjoying that so far. Not sure how much or how far I will get, but just wanted to report that I think it seems really, really cool. The art style seems amazing, and the music early on is really cool. I mean, it seems like a top tier, S tier video game, and I'm happy to be trying it out. So that's really everything I've been playing this week. Ghost of Yotei, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, Mario 64, and Hollow Knight Silksong. This has been the year of no direction on the Dep Lewis Show, so I haven't had like a genre or a theme for the year. I'm going to be planning on one for next year that I'm going to reveal during the Dep Lewis Show Awards 2025, which will be the 4th annual Dep Lewis Show Awards, taking place on the final Sunday of the year. So that is only, if you're listening to this podcast in real time, there's going to be one more podcast next Sunday. And then the final Sunday of the year is going to be the Dep Lewis Show Awards 2025, where I'm going to name the best game of the year, the best game from a prior year, the top 10 games of all time. And I will also reveal, there's going to be more categories as well. And then I will also reveal what the theme for next year will be. I'm still going back and forth on the theme for next year, and that's what I keep saying each week. So just know it's still up in the air, and I'm feeling a little bit of the crunch of having to decide these things, but that is what this is all about. It's pretty fun. It's fun making these lists. It's one of the most fun shows I'm going to do each year, and it's something that you kind of build towards all year, and then you have to finally, sit down and think of your thoughts. Thinking of your thoughts is really tough to do, but you have to really sit there and think and be like, damn, did I like this one more than this one? I got to remember back to this one, how much did I play? And I don't know, it's just fun to do, and I'm excited to do it on the final Sunday of the year. So that is the case. That's everything I've been playing. I don't know if anything else is going to jump into my game of the year list. I think maybe all the contenders are in the mix. I think I know the winner, but like I'm saying, nothing has really been determined yet. I have a pretty rough outline. I'm just kind of living with the outline as I go. I think it seems pretty good. I've been playing, I picked up Hollow Knight Silksong. I don't think I'm going to have time to have anything jump into contention at this point, so that's kind of a weird spot to be at, so I guess that's why I kind of maybe was doing some random gaming. But I gotta say, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is sticking around. I'm really enjoying that game. There's a really big battle for the racing games this year. There's Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, Mario Kart World, and Kirby Air Riders. I've been enjoying the heck out of all 3 of those games. I think Mario Kart World was my Game of the Year leader for a long portion of the year, and maybe it still could be, but I've also been putting more and more time into Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, and I think I'm lucky to actually have a bunch of options this year, so it's pretty nice and it's pretty fun to think about. So that's all my rambling. I'm trying to think what else I want to say. I have just kind of in general terms, so we have one more podcast next week of a regular episode, and then the final Sunday of the year is going to be the Dep Lewis Show Awards, and then starting off with 2026, just back to kind of rolling, and that is what is going on over here for the Dep Lewis Show. So that's everything I got for you for my updates this week. That's everything I've been playing, and there's still more show to go. So going to take the first break. You're going to hear some lovely music from friend of the show and friend of real life Ballness, and we're going to come back for the midsection where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. Welcome back to the midsection of Dep Lewis Show, episode 159. This is where I tell you about everything going on around the video game world that you need to know. And as this year, 2025, is coming to an end, everyone out there is doing their Game Awards. And the most important one in the Dep Lewis Show universe, of course, is the final Sunday of the year, the Dep Lewis Show Awards. But another prominent Game Awards that takes place is hosted each year by Geoff Keighley. And this one took place on last Thursday, December 11th, and I'm here to tell you about all the, the winner of the Game Awards and all the announcements. There's often, many announcements from the show, and that was the case this year as well. So as always with these award shows, this one was like 3.5 hours in length, so pretty long. Sometimes, different outlets will do talkovers. So I watched Giant Bomb do the talkover of this one, but MinMax was doing one. I was checking in with them from time to time. And so I would recommend going watching some of those. They're pretty fun to watch. So 3.5 hours. I think it was a pretty entertaining show. It definitely felt a little bit long, but as someone who really loves video games and news and everything like this, it was really fun to watch. And I had a great night watching this show for real. And so I'm here to tell you about the game of the show, the Game of the Year winner, and then all the other news and announcements from the show, or all the ones that I found most important. As always, maybe go watch these things for yourself if you want to see all the announcements, because I'm not going to talk about everything, and there might be something in there that I missed that you like, but I'm going to tell you about all the things that I thought were especially cool. But the first thing from the Game Awards that took place last week, the Game of the Year winner, to no surprise, was Clair Obscur Expedition 33. And already, just getting right into that, the other nominees were Death Stranding 2 on the Beach, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Hades 2, Hollow Knight Silksong, and Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But Clair Obscur Expedition 33 was pretty much the star of the show. They won 9 awards total, which was the most ever in Game Awards history. And they all the developers most of them were dressed up. They had berets on. They had kind of unified costumes on. They were all being very nice and polite and thankful. And it was a pretty cool evening to see Sandfall have that much of a celebration. And not being a giant studio, having all this success is very, very cool either way, even if you haven't played this game or if you love this game. So Clair Obscur Expedition 33, winner of the Game Awards in many, many ways. And so that was definitely the highlight of the night. They won Game of the Year, they won Best RPG, they won Best Narrative, they won Best Art Direction, Best Score and Music, Best Game Direction, Best Debut Indie Game, Best Independent Game, and Best Performance by Jennifer English, who is also Shadowheart. So a great video game actress, Jennifer English. All right, so that was the big update from the Game Awards, the big winner, and just really no surprise there, but I think it was a deserving winner. And then Clair Obscur Expedition 33 announced in their final big thank you, they said, hey, we're giving you a free thank you update announced, and it released after the show. So there is a new playable environment, brand new music tracks, challenging boss battles with endless tower, photo mode, new text and UI game localizations, and quality of life / performance improvements. So that thank you update is available right now, and I think that's a very nice touch and a very classy move from Sandfall on to celebrate the big win for the Game of the Year for them. All right, so that's kind of all the updates I have for you for the winners of the categories. But the other really cool thing from this was all the announcements of different video games. So the first one I want to tell you about is Mega Man Dual Override. So a new Mega Man, I guess this is going to be a mainline one, so this would be number 12. They have abandoned the numbering, which is a little bit unusual because they were all the way up to Mega Man 11, and I think a lot of people really liked Mega Man 11, so a little bit unusual. They were switching it up, and I guess some type of a reboot kind of thing is what they're going for, but the new Mega Man is going to be called Mega Man Dual Override, and it's announced it's going to release in 2027 for Switch 2 and 1, PS5 and 4, Xbox Series X and S, and Steam. And you never know, in 2027 we might have PlayStation 6s and Xbox Series X 2.0 or whatever it may be. But I'm very excited about that. Mega Man's a series that I've always kind of liked from afar and played a little bit of, like on the Anniversary Collection, but maybe should play some more of that. And I actually did play a little bit of Mega Man 2 last week, and I almost completed one of the first bosses, like on maybe a couple tries, but ended up losing, and plan to go back and play some more of that for sure. So Mega Man Dual Override, I'm pretty excited for that just because I think Mega Man's like an untapped series for me. That's something I think I would enjoy, and having a 2-year build-up, there's plenty of Mega Man games to go out there and play. There's plenty of them on sale right now, especially on some digital storefronts, so a good time to maybe get into some backlog for Mega Man, and that's maybe what I will do. All right, this was a pretty giant announcement for fans of RPGs and fans of a particular sci-fi franchise called Star Wars. And Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic has been announced. I guess this is like the follow-up, the spiritual successor. the next in line in the KOTOR series. So this one's, Knights of the Old Republic, and I like that they're calling this one FOTOR, the Fate of the Old Republic. And well, I guess, Fate of the Old Republic. This one's been announced, no firm release date for this, so this one seems like it might be far off, but this one's being developed by a new studio launched by Casey Hudson, who is the director of the original Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, so some incredible pedigree there, and also the Mass Effect trilogy, so some pretty wonderful RPGs of the past, and looking to make this new one called Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic. The back of the box talk on this one, on FOTOR, is the fate of the galaxy is in your hands in a narrative-driven action RPG where you step into the role of a Force user on a journey through a galaxy on edge of rebirth. Blending innovative storytelling, memorable characters, and heart-pounding combat, Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic immerses you in an unforgettable experience where every decision deepens your journey towards light or darkness. I wrote darkens, but I would say it's probably darkness. I've never played KOTOR back in the day. I know a friend of the show, San Fee, and friend of real life Sanfi, is a KOTOR fan, and I maybe even following this from back in the day, but I know a lot of people out there in the world love these games. I've always kind of been a somewhat fan of Star Wars. It's never like I dislike them, but I'm just not like a huge fan, but I do enjoy Star Wars, I do enjoy RPGs, and this could be something that I want to try in the future. Alright, so the Star Wars fans were pretty happy after this show because they also got the announcement of Star Wars Galactic Racer. This one has been announced, and it's actually going to release next year in 2026 is what they're saying. Developed by Fuse Games, published by Secret Mode. It's a runs-based, high-stakes reinvention of racing born in the lawless Outer Rim. With the Empire gone and the galaxy rebuilding, the Galactic League is created, an underground, unsanctioned circuit where syndicates bankroll chaos and champions are forged. And even thinking now, I've been really into racing games recently, playing a lot of them, and this is I have a lot of good memories from playing this game or the pod racing game on N64. That's definitely like a classic to me from back in the day. And having more like a modern one, they definitely show you the pod racers in here at the end as a little bit of a teaser. But there's all sorts of different things you're going to be riding around in this Galactic Racer. And I think this one, it's going to be more up my alley than I'm even thinking. So I definitely need to put this one on my radar for going into 2026. And that's something I'll be doing probably maybe the first episode of the year for the new year will be kind of a look ahead at the year and what I'm, definitely looking into buying and, what the other big games in the year will be. So, plan on that for early in the year next year. Definitely going to be talking about that. But Star Wars Galactic Racer has been announced and is going to release in 2026. All right, some more announcements from the Game Awards that took place last week. There is a double announcement for Tomb Raider. So we're getting 2 Tomb Raider games. One's going to be a remaster, which is going to be called Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. That one's going to be dropping in 2026, so next year. It's a true reimagining of her debut adventure. At the heart of both, and then, let's see here. And then so that's going to be, they're doing like a remake called Legacy of Atlantis, I believe is the title. That'll be taking place next year. And then Tomb Raider Catalyst will be the brand new game in 2027, which they're touting as Lara's biggest adventure yet. And I guess both of these games in collaboration with Amazon Game Studios and Crystal Dynamics, the legacy of Lara Croft continues with 2 new games coming to PlayStation 5. I'm not sure if they're coming to other consoles as well, but maybe this is actually a PlayStation 5 exclusive, if that's what they're actually saying in this text, because the Game Awards isn't console exclusive. But either way, we're getting like a reboot to the Tomb Raider franchise, and I think they're doing this in a cool way. I think they're doing this kind of like Silent Hill, giving you the remake and then giving you the new game later. And if any indication from Silent Hill 2 remake to Silent Hill F, which seemed like are amazing games, both of them, and maybe Tomb Raider can kind of copy the same playbook here and deliver with some really cool Tomb Raider games. And I've never completed a Tomb Raider game. I'm not sure if I've ever really played one more than like an hour or so. So this could be a good chance for someone like me to get back into it, and I will possibly be doing so next year. So next year we're going to get the reimagining of her debut adventure, Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis, and then the following year, 2027, we're going to get the new game, Tomb Raider Catalyst. So Atlantis to Catalyst. I think they could do a better job in differentiating those names. I think it's going to be really hard to remember which one is which, especially maybe Legacy of Atlantis really is like a huge clue if you played that first game, but if you're someone who hasn't played it, I think it's really confusing between looking at those names. You wouldn't immediately know which one would be which. But whatever, that's a little minor complaint. And let's see, they say at the heart of both adventures, Lara Croft, I don't know if I said that already. Oh yeah, Lara Croft, confident, complex, and extremely accurate with two pistols, will be voiced by the talented Alex Wilton Reagan. Well, that's the last thing I wanted to point out about the Tomb Raider announcement. Alright, another game that's been announced and they're saying it's going to release in 2026 is Control Resonant. The follow-up to Control from 2019, which was critically acclaimed and something I've played maybe 5 to 10 hours of, and something I should probably play more of, but it's a little bit spooky. The developer and publisher of this one is Remedy Entertainment. And in this game, you explore a warped Manhattan on the brink of paranatural annihilation in this thrilling action-adventure RPG. Unleash the extraordinary powers of Dylan Faden as he fights for his humanity and our survival against a reality-bending cosmic threat. So a pretty giant announcement. I think they've been cooking this game up for a good while here, at least 6 years. So that's a nice thing to see. This one's definitely not seem like it's going to be rushed. I think this is something that everybody's been waiting for. And a really cool trailer and announcement there for Control Resonant. Alright, a game that's coming out early next year, that got shown off a little bit more, is Resident Evil Requiem. That's going to release on February 27, 2026. So a pretty giant release for the first quarter of next year. And the big announcement here, there are going to be multiple playable characters. And one is going to be some guy, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but his name is Leon S. Kennedy. And he has been announced as a playable character in Resident Evil Requiem. And they've also abandoned the numbers here. So I think this one's like Resident Evil 10 or 11, or it's 9, 10, 11, something in that range. I'm not really caught up on any of these. I think the only Resident Evil I've ever completed has been 5. So that's maybe a franchise I need to get a little bit more into as time goes on. But Resident Evil Requiem, the back of the box talk is a new era of survival horror arrives with Resident Evil Requiem, the latest and most immersive entry yet in the iconic Resident Evil series. Experience terrifying survival horror with FBI analyst Grace Ashcroft and dive into pulse-pounding action with legendary agent Leon S. Kennedy. Both of their journeys and unique gameplay styles intertwine into a heart-stopping emotional experience that will chill you to your core. So pretty cool. This one's coming out on Switch 2, which is very interesting, so it'll be nice to see how that runs on Switch 2. But a pretty gigantic release early for the year next year, Resident Evil Requiem. And you can play as Leon S. Kennedy, so everyone around the world cheered for that, or at least like 97% of Resident Evil fans, so I feel like he is pretty universally loved. Alright, I think this is a pretty cool announcement. It seems a little bit silly, but this is something that I'm going to be interested in, especially if it's getting we see some more information and it's reviewing well. I think this could be up my alley. And they announced a game called Bradley the Badger. There's no release date for this, but the developer and publisher is Day 4 Night. You got to check this out. You got to check this. It's this looks like they're trying to make a brand new mascot platformer. And as someone who's a fan of some mascot platformers, I think having a modern take on one that's a new IP, I think is very exciting. And I think this is, if I had to pick maybe a few from this show, I think this would be one of the cooler highlights from this. And I don't know if I'll ever end up playing this. I don't know if it's going to kind of go the Bubsy territory of being a little bit more of a joke than actually a quality game. But hey, Bradley the Badger's coming out strong, and it looks like they're doing all the right things. So Bradley, the beloved platforming icon, which I don't know if Bradley's ever had a game before, so maybe they're just being funny there, which I would appreciate, or maybe there is something that I really don't know about Mr. Bradley the Badger. But he finds himself lost in strange new lands and decides to fight back, shape unfinished worlds with your game developer powers, explore a genre-bending story, and save your home in this unique action-adventure. Wishlist now and join Bradley's journey. This one, he looks like, I think I was making the joke that he looks like Kung Fu Panda's cousin, Bradley the Badger, and it looks like this one could be pretty fun to play. I think this is kind of in the 2A territory of video games, and I think that's exciting, and I want to see what Bradley the Badger is going to be doing, so I'll be checking for that. Announced but no release date, but please go check that out. A very cute looking fighting badger. Go check out Bradley the Badger. We got some pretty interesting names for these next couple games announced. This next one, I think there is some developer pedigree here that has me interested, but the name of this game is called Coven of the Chickenfoot. So pretty cool name, pretty funny name, and the back of the box talk on this one is after the dungeons have been plundered and the monsters are killed, elderly witch quietly gets to work in this emotionally rich, stylized single-player adventure. Gert will need to build a bond with a peculiar creature if she's to fulfill a coven's oath. So the developer and publisher for this game is Wildflower Interactive, and this is the cool part about that. Wildflower Interactive is an independent studio, which I think is recently founded. Maybe this is their first title, founded by Naughty Dog veteran Bruce Straley. So I do love Naughty Dog as a development team in general. Most of their games are some of my favorite games of all time. And having someone who's a veteran from there, I was thinking, hey, this is pretty cool, but it's, not automatically. Maybe Bruce is going to have his own style. Maybe it's not going to be related, but because it doesn't automatically look like something you'd see like Uncharted or Jack and Daxter or something like that. I might be wrong on that. I'm trying to think of other, Crash Bandicoot, but Coven and the Chicken Foot looks like they're trying to do something new. I think it's interesting, and I think just having the Naughty Dog developer on there, I think is a good back of the box quote. But we gotta see what this game's gonna be like and how it's gonna be. Really, really insightful. See what this game's gonna be like and how it's gonna be. Oh yeah. So that's just me saying I'm not sure. But Coven and the Chicken Foot has been announced, and I think is interesting. All right, the next game, another one, kind of falls in the same category for me. Order of the Sinking Star, and this one I find interesting, but I think is smart, I guess. The first thing they tell you in the tagline of this video game is from director Jonathan Blow. I think a lot of people kind of that might kind of be the reason why some people are turned off by Jonathan Blow. They feel like maybe his name's out there too much. Maybe this is me even saying that myself, but he's made games like Braid and The Witness, so he is a famed classic video game developer at this point. I mean, you definitely can say that. And I guess if you're making games with kind of obscure titles, you might want people to know that you're the one developing it, especially if you have such a huge fan base. So I'm kind of joking on it, but I can kind of see the reasoning why here, because that's a pretty big selling point to know that this is developed by Jonathan Blow, and that is just the reality. But Order of the Sinking Star is a narrative adventure set in a realm of magic and enigma. Solve over 1,000 interconnected handcrafted puzzles, discover unique playable heroes, master evolving gameplay mechanics, and decipher a grand mystery. So Braid was something that was really cool back in the 360 days. It was during the era of Xbox Live Arcade, where that was kind of a thing where they would release games on a schedule and really, really highlight them. And it was kind of like a new, fresh thing, or it felt like a new, fresh thing on consoles. And Braid was something that maybe I kind of liked the idea of more than actually playing. I think Witness was maybe the case as well. But these games, a lot of people enjoy them. And, maybe my lane for this is maybe watching other people play these games, but you never know. I think this one looks especially cool because of the amount of puzzles in here and Order of the Sinking Star. I don't think we have really any more release date windows. The developer for this one, so I guess Jonathan Blow's development team's called Tekla Inc. Thekla Inc. I've never really heard that before. The publisher is Arc Games, and there's really no release window yet for Order of the Sinking Star, but definitely something that is going to get a lot of attention when it does release. All right, just two more things I want to tell you about from the Game Awards, and then we're going to have some other news for you for the midsection. But Ace Combat 8, this is one that I'm not sure. Wings of Theve. I don't know what Theve is. I kind of looked it up for half a second before the podcast and really couldn't determine what it would be. But Wings of Theve, Theve. Soar through the skies and rise above every challenge to earn your place among the elite. Engage in intense aerial combat to dominate the battlefield with powerful weapons. Experience a breathtaking campaign filled with high-stake missions, hard choices, and deep squad connections. Now, the release date for this one will be 2026, developed by Bandai Namco Aces Inc. So I guess that is the Ace Combat division of Bandai Namco's development squad, and it's being published by Bandai Namco Entertainment Inc. The last Ace Combat game, Ace Combat 7, was 2019. Maybe they are seeing all the love and hype for games like Microsoft Flight Simulator and trying to come back and get a piece of that pie. And I don't think I've ever played an Ace Combat game, but they've always seemed really cool. I'm someone who is afraid of flying in real life, so I don't know if Ace Combat is the proper game for me to play, or, maybe the perfect game for me to play. I've thought that about Microsoft Flight Simulator, but, I don't know also if I'm scared of heights in video games as much as that would be real life. But either way, pretty cool announcement. Seeing this one seems like kind of like a classic franchise to me, and seeing it come back to the modern era. I think a lot of these games like this are in put up or shut up mode, where they're going to have one really, if this game kind of flops, I don't know if we'll see any more Ace Combat, but if this game does well, the franchise could continue on. So I think it's kind of at a crossroads is what I would say for this game, and there's probably other games that I can think of in that category. I guess Tomb Raider, a little bit of one as well, trying to see what you still got there. And I think that is I think I'll be seeing that more and more as I do this podcast over the years and keep getting older. Some franchise that I feel like might be classic or undisputable or, unfallible or, unable to be knocked from the top, I'm going to probably see them go to the wayside and just fall out of favor, or new things move in, and that's just kind of how it goes out here. So that'll be kind of fun to follow over the history of this podcast. All right, the last thing announced that I want to tell you about from the Game Awards was Divinity. This is the next game from Larian Studios, whose last major hit was Baldur's Gate 3. So they are no longer working on Baldur's Gate, and they are moving back to their own franchise, I guess, which is Divinity. But they are just rebranding it. I guess just Divinity will be the title. I think they had one called Divinity 2. I'm not sure about the title, because I think there's like Divinity 2 and Divinity 1 and Divinity 2 or games they made previously, and they're kind of going back to the well. But maybe this is going to be, well, they're saying for this one, it's Larian Studios unchains its ambitions to bring you an RPG with greater breadth and depth than ever before. So if you watch this, I think this one's probably the most memorable trailer during this show for kind of how like shocking and grotesque it was. And that is definitely not up my alley, but they really went for it in this trailer. And, I don't think the whole game is going to be indicative of what that trailer was doing, but it was just, the intention was to be memorable and kind of shocking, and they totally did that. And as someone who's, I get less and less fan of like gory stuff as I get older, that's definitely not like selling me on playing the game, but I also know that Larian Studios is a great development studio, so there's probably a good rhyme or reason to why they're making a trailer like that. And they're, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for sure on, maybe trying their game out some more. Unless it's, and if it's all going to be like that, there's zero chance I'm going to like that game. But, I'm not believing that will be the case. So that was the last thing announced, Divinity from the Game Awards. There were plenty of other games announced. I think there was a Diablo expansion that was announced. I'm trying to think of a few other things that I didn't actually take notes on. But that might really be about it. But a lot of announcements. It was a 3.5-hour show. It was extremely fun to watch. Some of the musical segments were extremely cool. I love the ending segment where they're announcing the Game of the Award winners. The orchestra plays some of the music from each game. It's one of the coolest sections from the show. And they just put on a good spectacle. I think it was really great. And I'm trying to think what else I want to say about the Game Awards in general. Yeah, the music is just really, really outstanding. Some of the speeches always get me too. These people, work really hard, and they made some really great creative things. And it's fun to see them go up there and get an award. And just really cool to see video games being celebrated. I think that's kind of the main thing about this. It's a pretty giant show. Even if you like it or don't like it or think it's too long or too many ads or whatever, it's a pretty huge celebration of the video game world, and kind of shows the strength of the hobby or whatever, or the genre, or the whatever you may want to call it. And just really, really cool to see all happening in one place, a really big celebration. So, congratulations to them for putting on a really great show for the Game Awards, Mr. Geoff Keighley. All right, so that's all the updates from the Game Awards I want to tell you about. And just a couple more things to tell you about news-wise for the week. Call of Duty. They recently released Black Ops 7. I think it's kind of come out to mixed reviews, and they have announced, they made like a press release, I guess, talking about the paths of the current games, but then also talking about and I think the part that's interesting is their strategy going forward is changing, is what they're saying. So these are quotes from the Call of Duty devs. Or I guess Activision, more so. We will no longer do back-to-back releases of Modern Warfare or Black Ops games. Excuse me, the reasons are many, but the main one is to ensure we provide an absolute unique experience each and every year. So this whole quote, I'm going to laugh about it a little bit. I'm going to keep reading it to you. Now, we will drive innovation that is meaningful, not incremental. While we aren't sharing those plans today, we will look forward to doing so when the time is right. To be clear, the future of Call of Duty is very strong, and we believe our best days are ahead of us given the depth and talent of our development teams. We've been building the next era of Call of Duty, and it will deliver precisely on what you want, along with some surprises that push the franchise and the genre forward. We look forward to welcoming you, listening to you, and moving forward together. So I just think some of the, this quote's not going to be completely indicative of what they're going to do, but I think this quote is exactly, maybe why they're in some of the problems that they're seeing. And they're saying, to be clear, the future of Call of Duty is strong. I mean, it's not clear. You're having a struggling game and you're changing your strategy, so it's not clear that the future is bright. I don't think you've been gaining more Call of Duty players as time goes on. I think you've been struggling to gain new players. And I think some of the old historic players have been falling off. I think that's the reality. And the depth and talent of their development team, I believe that's very true. But we've been building the next era of Call of Duty, and it will deliver precisely on what you want. So they're already kind of saying, hey, we're going to give you what you want later. It's like, I don't think you really need to be saying this because you don't have anything to show for it. And we're actually, you're a month away from a release that was pretty disappointing to a lot of people. So coming out here and you saying you have precisely what people want, I think it's a little disingenuous and a little bit of just kind of like flavorful text, precisely on what you want, along with some surprises. So they're saying, hey, the game's not also going to be amazing. We're going to do some things that you wouldn't expect. So the question would be like, why didn't you do this in the last couple of years? I think the last couple of releases of Call of Duty have been floundering. So I think the thing here is they're seeing the numbers go down, and they are worrying because maybe they've overinvested in what they think Call of Duty is for. Maybe like I'm talking about. Maybe this is one of those franchises that's been a classic mainstay for a long time, but as time goes on, people grow up, people get older, younger people like new things, and not everything is going to survive that older people like or that's been. Some things do, but a lot of things don't, and this one might be the case here, and maybe they need to readjust their strategy with that mind frame. Would kind of be my my thoughts on it at this moment. And I think they also say we look forward to welcoming you in, listening to you, and moving forward together. I think it's good to listen to people that are into your product, but I think also you don't want them to tell you what to do all the time. Like you would want to release the good product, I would think. And you're going to have some complaints always, but I don't think you want to just be at the whims of your audience or what particular thing you're reading or whatever it may be. I don't think people want to have to do work for you, Call of Duty, and have to tell you what to do for the game. I think they want you to go through and innovate and change and think of these things and deliver the good product that we have to pay these really, really high prices for of everyone's hard-earned money out here. But whatever. I think it says at least an acknowledgement that they're seeing a dip in their numbers. And I don't think it's 100% that they're going to be, on the upswing for Call of Duty. I think it could be. We could see, they also say in here, we will drive innovation that is meaningful, not incremental. It's like, you've been driving incremental innovation every year. You're kind of in the same loop as Madden and NBA 2K. People don't go to those games expecting things to be much different. And, how long will that, I don't know how long that will last. I guess we will see. But they say, what was the other quote in here? Our best days are ahead of us. I really just don't think that's true. And I don't think it's necessarily not true, but I don't know if they're going to ever get back to the hype of Call of Duty 4. Even that Modern Warfare reboot in 2019, they've already kind of rebooted the thing that people like. And I think they're a little bit floundering here is what my take on the Call of Duty is. But I don't think Call of Duty is going anywhere anytime soon, but I really kind of do think maybe some of its best times are ahead of it. Or, what we think of Call of Duty prior might not be in existence anymore. All right, a couple more things to tell you about for this week. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. You ever heard of that game? It released in 2011. It's been on a few different consoles, maybe just a few. It's actually released now on Nintendo Switch 2. It released on December 9th. It's $59.99 US, and I don't know if it's a good version of the game. I think maybe the few things I've heard that it actually doesn't run that good. So if you have any other way to play Skyrim, which you probably do, maybe steer clear of the Nintendo Switch 2 version, at least while it's full price right now is $60. But kind of just had to report that one because it's just wild to see Skyrim keeps coming to new consoles, and this probably won't be the last time that I'll have to talk about that on this show. But I do like Skyrim, but I mean, it's been 14 years, 15, whatever it is, since the last one released. I played this game back in 2011 and loved it, and I just don't know if I need more Skyrim in my life. And that's another franchise. I don't know. I think maybe time has gone by on the Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls 6, the development's been taking 19 years. I just don't know. Even myself, when Elder Scrolls 6 will be coming out, I'm sure I could get hyped for it, but I don't 100% know if it's going to be a grand slam for me in these days and times if I'm going to want to play it. And I don't know if young people want to play it because they might not even know what Elder Scrolls is. So I think some of these franchises are kind of in this territory, and oftentimes it's going to be some of my favorite franchises as I get older. So that's the Elder Scrolls V, has a Nintendo Switch 2 edition you can go purchase right now. And the other news here is Sonic Racing CrossWorlds, a game I mentioned in the first section that I really do like, and I think did not run great on Nintendo Switch 1, now does have a Nintendo Switch 2 edition. This one released earlier in the month on December 3rd. It's $69.99 US. A race across land, sea, air, and space, warp through travel rings into new dimensions where something new awaits around every twist and turn. So I really do enjoy this game. If it is running anywhere close to what it does on PlayStation 5, I think that's a great thing. This is something I could be tempted to pick up on Switch 2 later, especially if it goes on sale, to try to have it on that console. But I think this one looks particularly great on the PlayStation 5. The graphics aren't necessarily realistic, but some of the graphics kind of look realistic, like some of the road stuff and some of the water and the reflections. Like, I think it does a really good job on PlayStation 5 of looking nice, and I think it's a pretty cool thing having like a kart racer with some like fidelity in the graphics in there, or some higher fidelity graphics, as opposed to like more cartoony. And I just don't know if they are nailing that on the Nintendo Switch 2, but I think it's nice that they have an upgraded version from the Switch 1, because I think we've been seeing some games on the Switch 1 that don't run so great, kind of like Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. I don't think Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3+4 ran too great on the Switch 1 version, and I think it seems like, I don't know, I don't want to say it seems like, but this might be a good cutoff time for, if you wanted to, save your money, maybe try to get the Switch 2 if you're trying to play some of these games in a better form or fashion. But, it's nice to have the option if you can play them on your Switch 1 still, but it just seems like we're getting some kind of lesser versions is the case. And maybe lesser where it really is more of a, stay away than like a put up with it kind of thing. And that's just my 2 cents. All right, a couple more things to tell you about. This is something that this game got an update, and something that I should play more of, because it's something I've been realizing I like this franchise a lot. But the game is F-Zero 99. This is something that's been out for some years now on Nintendo Switch Online, so available if you're a Nintendo Switch Online member, and they have added some additional new content. So they've added the Frozen Tour, Elite Ranking, 3 Mystery Courses, and BGM Players. I'm not really completely familiar with what all those things are, but this seems like a pretty substantial upgrade to F-Zero 99, which is the lightning-fast F-Zero racing with a 99-player twist. Line up with 98 other F-Zero machines and race to the finish in this thrilling take on the original Super NES game. Keep an eye on your power meter as you boost in Bash, because speed is just as important as survival. Defend yourself with a spin attack and collect super sparks to breeze past the competition on the elevated skyway. The F-Zero 99 game is available only to active Nintendo Switch Online members. So I've been playing some F-Zero GX this year and really enjoying that. I've been playing some F-Zero on Game Boy Advance, and just realizing that this franchise is extremely fun. I kind of got back into it from Nintendo Switch Online Plus Expansion Pack, playing the GameCube emulation of F-Zero GX, and then I actually picked the game up on GameCube after. And this is something that I just never, I think I tried it when it maybe first came out, but just never, and I still don't know if the format is going to be something I'm into, but this is something I need to give another try, and something I did re-download onto my Switch 2 in the past week. I just haven't played it yet. Alright, the last bit of news I want to tell you about this week is that if you wanted to get an Analogue 3D, those were the pre-orders, happened, I guess, years ago. It finally released and shipped, and people actually have their Analogue 3D. It seems like people like them. And if you want to buy the black or white version, they're actually in stock right now if you're listening in real time, so I want to point that out. They're now $270 US dollars, so I believe that's $20 higher than the original pricing, but they're available right now if you want to go grab one. And they also released in the past week, so you're unable to do this at this time, but they announced Funtastic limited editions. And these have all been pre-ordered out. They had different colors. I think there's 8 of them. They had jungle green, ice blue, watermelon, fire, grape, clear, smoke, and gold. So they look extremely cool. And they also have announced some new Funtastic controllers from 8-Bit Do, and those aren't shipping until February 2026. Those will run you $45 US dollars. But if you did get a Funtastic Analogue 3D that's supposed to arrive before Christmas, I know I saw some complaints online of getting all the really cool, awesome colors announced after the initial pre-order run's pretty disappointing. Like, all the early adopters only got the option of buying the black or the white console, but even thinking about it now, that is a bummer. It's nice to have the options as always, but that's generally the case, I guess, with console releases. Like, the first early adopters are not going to have like as much options usually on colors or things like that, or uniqueness, and then over time, like, limited edition ones come out. But I guess the complaint here would be is they release the Funtastic pre-orders like 2 weeks after they ship the initial batch of the original one. So normally, like, a limited edition console is not coming out for a year or whatever after, so it doesn't feel like as, I guess, slimy or whatever would be the word, or disingenuous, or just a little bit of a bummer for those people, because if you see the colors, every one of them, there's 8 of them, and they're all amazing looking. And they're all doing the same thing as the original Analogue 3D, but it is gotta be a little bit of a wind out of your sail seeing that announced, especially. I would think it would be either way, because I think these colors are the coolest looking things that they have. So, but I think that's kind of been what they do. So I don't know. I think, I don't know. But I'm thinking about getting one of these. I'd like to have an Analogue 3D. I don't know if I want to pay the money for it, but maybe sometime next year if they're still available. I've been wanting to get an Analogue Pocket. I've been wanting to get an Analogue 3D, and maybe I'll finally pull the trigger next year on an Analogue product. But if you want to get one right now, Analogue 3D, they have the base colors in there available. If you want to go get one, I don't know if it says how quickly on the shipping, but I think it's just kind of regular shipping now at this point for those. So please go check those out if you're into the Analogue 3D. All right, so that's everything I have for you news-wise this week. We talked about the Game Awards, which had a lot of great announcements. They announced the Game of the Year winner for them was Clair Obscur Expedition 33. They had a free update for that. We talked about Mega Man Dual Override We talked about Star Wars Fate to the Old Republic, Star Wars Galactic Racer, Tomb Raider Catalyst, Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis, Control Resonant, Resident Evil Requiem, Bradley the Badger, Coven of the Chickenfoot, Order of the Sinking Star, Ace Combat 8, Wings of Theve, I guess is how you would say that, I don't know, and then Divinity, the next game from Larian. We also talked about some other news, some Call of Duty news in general, The Elder Scrolls 5 on Switch 2, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds on Switch 2, F-Zero 99 got an update, and we talked about Analogue 3D out there in the wild and available right now if you want to go order one. So that's everything I have for you for the news this week, and everything I got for you for the midsection, but there is still one final section of the show to go. It's going to be a fun one today because there's some good stuff to talk about in the NFL, about my favorite team, the Carolina Panthers, so going to have one final break and come back for the miscellaneous talk section where I can talk about anything I want to outside of the video game world, and I want to get into the worldwide world of sports as always. So you don't want to miss it. Even if you don't like sports, come back and listen because it should be good either way. Welcome back to the final section of Dep Lewis Show, episode 159, the miscellaneous talk section, where I can talk about anything I want to outside the video game world. So I want to get into the worldwide world of sports as always and tell you what's going on my favorite teams. And this is an NFL Sunday, and the mighty Carolina Panthers are back on the field. They're playing today in New Orleans at 4:25, so I'm able to record this podcast a little bit later than usual because the 1 o'clock football starts in 6 minutes from real time. But the Panthers were on a bye last week, so hopefully they had some good rest, healed up, and got ready mentally and physically to come through and take down the Saints in New Orleans today at 4:25. And the Panthers right now are tied for the division. The Bucs lost last week to the Saints, which was very nice, and helping them out. And so if the Panthers win today, they can somehow win next week against Tampa Bay. They'll actually clinch the division in Week 16. So that's just very, very hopeful thought there and putting the cart before the horse. But the Panthers' first mission today is to get some get back on the New Orleans Saints, who beat them earlier in the year at home. So that's the main thing today. I'm really, really excited to watch that. I hope the Panthers can come out and play a competitive game because I don't want to see any more duds. I still don't think they're dud-proof, but I think the Panthers have been playing a lot better football. This year has already been a little bit of success, especially compared to the last couple seasons, but I would like to see them keep going and potentially get into the playoffs. That would be so much fun and so amazing to see. So, go Panthers today. My fantasy team got a win last week, so got back on track from our loss. My fantasy team's 13-1, and the playoffs are actually going on this week, so I'm luckily just chilling with the first round bye. We'll have to get back to action next week, most likely playing friend of the show, Sanfi, is what it's looking like. All right, as far as basketball goes, the Charlotte Hornets, I'm a halfway fan of the Charlotte Hornets since I'm a North Carolina resident, and since I've talked to you last week, they played Denver last Sunday. The Hornets lost 106-115. Friday versus Chicago, which I watched most of that game. It was pretty fun to watch. Brandon Miller and Knuppel were out there balling, but the Hornets lost 126-129. And today the Hornets will actually play at 3:30 at Cleveland, so it's a really good sports day. Next week the Hornets will be playing the Hawks and Detroit. That game's actually in Charlotte, so I might actually go out to that one. I think it's on the 18th. So go watch my two favorite teams play. The Atlanta Hawks, like I just mentioned, my favorite team. Since last week, they played at Detroit. The Hawks lost 115-142, and they played today as well. They play at 6 o'clock. So I have the Hornets at 3:30. The Panthers start at 4:15 or 4:25, I believe it is, and then the Hawks play at 6 p.m. So a really great afternoon and evening of sports for me. And then next week, the Hawks are playing Charlotte, San Antonio, and the Bulls. All right, so my favorite sport, though, is Major League Baseball. It's the offseason over there, but the Atlanta Braves, my favorite team, have been making some moves. So it's the offseason. The 2026 season begins on Thursday, March 26, 2026 versus the Royals. Very excited for that. And then the past week, the Braves have made a couple moves. And the one I'm most excited for is they signed a closer, which they've already paid Raisel Iglesias, but maybe they're going to have him more in a bullpen capacity instead of closing. And Mr. Robert Suarez is going to come in on his 3-year, $45 million contract and be the closer for the Braves that they need. And he led the National League last season with 40 saves and 45 chances with the Padres. So an outstanding percentage there. And he became a free agent in early November after opting out of an $8 million option for 2026 and 2027. So he really bet on himself, and he came through and got the 3-year bag for the Braves. He's a 34-year-old pitcher. His fastball still averages 98.6 miles per hour, and he is a native of Venezuela. So along with Ronald Acuna Jr., another player from Venezuela, so that's a very good thing. And if Ronald's any indication, Suarez is going to come in and ball for the Braves, and this was a very great signing. I've been wanting the Braves to pay for some pitching. I still think they need to kind of pay. I still think they definitely need to pay for a starter of some kind, but I think this was a really great move, and nice to see them spend some money on a closer. And I guess that's going to be the case. Who's going to close? And I guess my answer would be Suarez, but we're going to see how that develops over the course of the offseason. But a great move, and there still needs to be more done. Mr. Alex Anthopoulos for the Braves. The Braves also signed an outfielder, Mike Yastrzemski. I don't think this is a earth-shattering move, but I think it's just a solid roster move. They signed him for a 2-year, $23 million contract, including an option for 2028. He's a 35-year-old. He spent most of his career with the Giants, but was traded to the Royals last year. So maybe he can be in the Chris Sale category in the Charlie Morton category. I know he's an outfielder, but coming through as an older guy who has had a long career and come through and have a little bit of a resurgence kind of thing. And I don't know I guess Yastrzemski almost had a Major League MVP season like one of them. So I guess it is a little bit similar, but I'm a huge fan of Morton and Chris Sale in general. I'm actually wearing a Charlie Morton Braves shirt right now while I'm recording this. But go Braves. I'm excited about Suarez joining the team, and hopefully they'll be making some more moves in the upcoming weeks I can talk about and be excited about. But as the MLB in general, they decided the draft order last week, so the White Sox get the first overall pick in next year's draft, and the Braves will actually get the 9th pick. Some other MLB news: the Dodgers signed Edwin Diaz from the Mets, a 3-year, $69 million contract. I guess he was the biggest closer on the market. I guess the Braves got maybe the second one, but Dodgers, they sign anybody, they're probably going to sign some more people. Makes me very mad. And but this one also a little bit of this one's two teams I really am not a fan of. The Mets, trading away a player that's good, I'm happy with that. And they also traded away, or didn't trade away, but the other bit of news here is they didn't re-sign Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso signed a 5-year, $155 million contract with the Orioles. So 2 bits of news from the Mets there, making them worse. And the Mets are already doing kind of poorly, so that makes me happy as a Braves fan at least. But I am also sad for the Mets fans a little bit in here, because it is tough to see some of your franchise staples not get signed, and there's really no reason for it. Maybe Pete wanted to go elsewhere, but sometimes you got to pay your guys to keep them around, and maybe you got to pay a little bit more even too, or maybe you got to drop the bag off. And you're going to have these questions or concerns about them getting older, but if you have somebody who is such a fan favorite, who has been producing on the field, I say you got to pay it. It's the Freddie Freeman thing. It's the Dansby Swanson thing. It's the, I guess the Braves have a few more of those in the last couple of years. Like, I guess William Contreras is one they traded away, but, keep your own guys. Max Fried is a huge one. You got to pay your own guys. And if you have a good player in the clubhouse, you're getting more than just the salary that you're paying them. You're getting the familiarity, you're getting the leadership. If they, have any of that, I guess they have to have some leadership style or whatever. If they've been there, they have some influence, is what I'm saying, on the clubhouse. And I think that's the part that they miss on not paying these guys to stick around. Unless, I guess there's some instances where you're just sick of them or you don't like them or whatever. But I think oftentimes these moves are pretty bad for the franchise in general. And, there's going to be a situation where Pete Alonso, the Mets pay Pete Alonso 5 years, $155 million. He gets injured, goes into some of his older years as a baseball player, and it's not as successful. I mean, that's totally going to happen sometimes, but every bit of this free agency stuff and picking your players is there's chances and gamblings, and you're taking risk and all that kind of stuff. And I think there's some other factors to be considered in there besides just the age with some of these things. All right, but that's all the MLB news in general. And probably be getting some more big stories like that. I think Scooball's one. If I hear Scooball going to the Dodgers, I'm going to be pretty upset to come talk about that in this podcast. If I hear Scooball going to the Braves somehow, I'll talk about it on the podcast every day for the next year. I'll be super excited, but I don't know. But either way, excited about some MLB moves, and I'll keep you updated as always. But that's all the sports talk I have for you this week in the miscellaneous talk section. So we talked about the Panthers who played today, the Hornets who played today, the Hawks who played today, and the Braves have been making some moves in the past week. And we talked about some MLB news in general, and that's everything I got for you for the miscellaneous talk section. And then that's everything I got for you for the entire show this week. So I'd like to reiterate some promotional talk from the beginning. Please follow Dep Lewis Show everywhere. Full episodes of Dep Lewis Show available anywhere you can find a podcast. So find the best place to subscribe and listen weekly. Places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, YouTube, Amazon Music, and more. So that's basically to say, hey, wherever you listen to podcasts, Dep Lewis Show should be available there. So please give it a chance on your favorite place to listen. YouTube is also a great place to watch me play some games live or check out the videos later. I do need to get back into some type of groove of of streaming, and maybe it won't be consistent, but I do keep that on my mind. So please follow me on YouTube for some of that, for watching me live or watching the videos later. And if you'd like to support the show even further than just listening, patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show is available if you'd like to subscribe monthly. That's the best way to guarantee you can always get the podcast ad-free. And there are some discounted rates on there right now for first people to sign up. So please go check me out on patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show. It's basically just a general support tier for me at this point, but in the future, you could see it. You could see it get more content on there, and it could be beneficial to sign up early. So please go check me out on patreon.com/Dep Lewis Show. And then also Venmo @Dep Lewis Show is available any day, anytime, for any amount if you'd like to support the show. And I just thank you so much for listening, as always. I hope you have a wonderful week out there in the world. Whatever you're doing, whenever you're listening to this, if things are going poorly, I hope that changes. If things are going well, I hope that continues. I'm trying to think. Hope the end of your year is wrapping up well. Hopefully you're having some time off work if you're able to. Hopefully you're going to see some friends or family, and maybe having a little bit of holiday cheer of some kind, whatever holiday you may celebrate. And just thank you so much for being a listener. There's going to be one more regular show for the end of the year. So next week will just be a regular episode, and the final Sunday of the year is going to be the Dep Lewis Show Awards for 2025. So I'm beyond excited about that. I'm still trying to plan and think and get all my thoughts together ready for that. And I've been working on that as well. So I'm excited for that. And just thank you as always for being a listener. And have a good one out there. And I'll talk to you next week. Goodbye.